again, in that jam mecca, like sort of right now. That's where it's all happening. That's where
we call it Jamtopia in Taper's Choice parlance. The state of Colorado.
All of Colorado, yeah.
It's without a doubt.
Like normally in other bands, you talk about territory as like, America or North America, England, Europe, all these different territories. And I feel like for jam bands, there's kind of the whole country, and then Colorado is its own thing.
Yes. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast, the podcast where I interview people about the best shows that they've ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Herdt, and this is a very cool episode with two incredible musicians from a very cool band. Sitting down with Alex and CT from Taper's Choice in preparation for the Burning Daylight Music Festival happening on Memorial Day weekend up in Wonderland Forest. This is the first Dogs in a Pile music festival, and both Taper's Choice and myself will be in attendance at that festival. And so we got together to kind of chat about that a little bit, and then obviously deviate off into jam band land, talking about, an era that we don't talk so much about in the jam band world is the era when Phish wasn't around. We talk about seeing shows in that time. We talk about really, coming into your own as a young musician during that time. Alex and CT are both members of a bunch of different incredible musical projects. Formerly, before CT was in Vampire Weekend, Alex was in Real Estate, and now they are both in Taper's Choice and finally living out their jam band dreams. They talk about trying to push the bands they were in before into that jam band world a little bit, and now getting to be a part of this jam festival culture, being around other bands that are doing the jam thing super well, just like they are. This is a super cool episode. I hope that you guys enjoy the conversation that I have with these two guys who are clearly heads. They have clearly seen some shows, and that is for sure. The other episode that's out right now is with also another jam guy, Alex Bailey from Eggy, is the drummer and vocalist in Eggy. He is outstanding. He's from Oak Park. We saw a bunch of shows in a similar area to each other. He talks about what he likes to do when he gets back home from tour and meeting Trey, all that kind of stuff. Another great episode, but I hope you guys enjoy this one. Like I said, we just launched into some incredible jam band conversation here. So I will get out of the way of this intro. Enjoy this conversation that I had with Alex and CT from Taper's Choice. Get your tickets to Burning Daylight Music Festival, Memorial Day weekend, up in Syracuse, in Wonderland Forest. But first, here's a little bit of music.
West Marin, it's the Fertile Crescent of the Grateful Dead.
I know, man.
You know what I mean? You love it out here.
Yeah, and it's just super not the Fertile Crescent of the Grateful Dead in Alameda. It is like
probably not. Although certain elements of the Crescent, I'm sure are there. Yeah. The Wharf Ratty elements. We're we played like Ivy Room is kind of becoming the Taper's Choice spot over there, so that's not that far from you.
Yeah. That's the most recent show that you did in Oakland.
Up here, yeah. And Steph Port, right?
Yeah.
She was sort of like, I'm bringing Mr. Cam, and I was like, okay, we better play. Well, yeah.
The Instagram guy's coming. Oh fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
wait, Alex, do you have a classic rock T-shirt you could wear, bro?
If you
could,
I'm not at home. I'm fucking up. That's why I look and sound so good. Because I'm hanging out with my friend after this, and I was like, well, I got to do the Mr. Cam podcast, but he's like a total crazy, as you can tell, like radio dude. He worked for TuneIn for a long time, and Chris, you might have even met him. He's like a Taper's dude, friends with all people that we're all mutual friends with. But I was like, can I just do it at your house? And he was like super jazzed. I'm like high end right now. Look at this chair.
You have the best setup, but if you could just put like a Doors t-shirt on,
I know
that would be really.
You have no idea how prescient that is, my friend. We actually just made some Taper's Choice Doors related merchandise that will be available at our upcoming Los Angeles show.
It fits.
Yeah.
You guys work some Doors stuff in, right? To your shows, you like play when the music's over and things like that. And
we've done it. We've done a couple covers. Working on a couple more. We'll see what happens next week.
Hell yeah, very cool. Well, I mean, can't wait to get to see you guys up at Burning Daylight Fest. I mean, that's not. You guys have played some festivals. You guys have done Outside Lands here in the Bay. Have you guys done any other festivals outside of?
We did Peach Fest.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
You know, which felt like a watershed moment for us. We
Yeah.
were really happy to be welcomed into that community.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a cool environment. It's definitely been a cool thing to be like kind of booked at festivals and like add some comedy to the day. But what's it like for you guys, like kind of playing? You play all these cool club like for those of you who don't know what Gold Diggers in LA is, it's kind of like a major birthplace for you guys. That's a cool little bar in LA, and like we were just talking about the Ivy Room. It's a cool spot here too. What's it like getting out in the open in like a festival type environment and playing in the open air?
CT.
Okay. Sorry. I think it's funny actually playing outside. I think always brings out something different. And this could be festival or just like an outdoor gig. Like the one that comes to mind was we played Big Sur at the Henry Miller Library, which possibly was our first outdoors gig, and it was a beautiful Big Sur night. Got dark as we were playing. There's functionally no one there, which maybe helped as well.
There were 9 people there, and they are
9 people there.
It's kind of like 9 were there, 900 will say they were there.
Right, exactly.
Hopefully,
I was totally there.
Yeah.
Dude.
And I remember a couple jams, like there was uplighting on the trees, so you're playing. The trees are right over you. Your feet, you're hearing some of the night sounds, and it did feel like that show and those tunes were different. And now it's also different to be in a field in the daylight in the middle of the afternoon. That also brings out different things.
Yeah.
But festivals are cool. I mean, Alex and I played a lot in our other bands as well, festival slots, and they're always different. They're different than your own shows, and I think there's pluses and minuses. But I always love it for the camaraderie, hearing other people, related to the show, of course, seeing other people play.
Yeah,
the crowd's energy is different because there's a lot of different energies mixing, and yeah, I love festivals. I'm really pumped for this Dogs one.
Totally, we're psyched. I mean, and it's kind of new to us to Chris sort of he referred to our other projects, but like it is a new thing for us to be like jamming at festivals, like we're the respective members of our other bands who are pushing our other bands to jam harder, probably at every other festival we've ever played. Right. And that's kind of the genesis of this band. Like, can we just have a jam band? And we do now, unapologetically so, proudly using the J word. And I think that like the festival set for like a different kind of band is like, all right, this is kind of like a small cross section of what we can do. Let's do like what's going to be the most accessible thing. Not everybody's here necessarily to see you. I feel really stoked because it feels like there's like an alignment of feeling and sentiment that's coming together at this Burning Daylight Festival, where it's like learning to stretch out in that kind of context is like, that's fresh material for us, which is exciting. I think those like new variables are the things that are going to make it like good. And to have the let's be honest, frankly, like very heady, fan base that is going to show up for this Burning Daylight Festival, like willing to go there with us and not feeling like, okay, we need our like type 45 or whatever. I think it's like a 3-hour slot or something that we have. So, we can go as deep as we want to.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's got to be, yeah, like you said, exciting, but then you're on a festival with a bunch of other people who are also pushing it forward too. I mean, Dogs is very unapologetically jam band. They love that Dogs in a Pile. They love that they are like a derivative from the Grateful Dead. And they love that. I mean, they will work in Fish songs, and like they'll play other jam band songs. So there's just not a lot of other jam bands who even kind of like you said, use the J word. That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great day. I mean, obviously, my whole fucking thing is that I'm a jam band guy, so I'm super excited to be involved with that as well. You guys, the other show you guys got coming up too is in Boulder, right? Fox Theater, or that's not Boulder, that's Denver. I'm not from
Boulder,
Colorado.
You got it.
I'm not from Colorado.
You got it.
There's Foxes in both, I think, but we're playing the Boulder one.
Yeah, it's an awesome fucking venue that you guys are getting to play at. I mean, and again, in that jam mecca, like sort of right now, that's where it's all happening. That's where
we call it Jamtopia in Taper's Choice parlance. The state of Colorado.
It is
Colorado, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Without a
Like
doubt.
normally in other bands, you talk about territory as like, America or North America, England, Europe, all these different territories. And I feel like for jam bands, there's kind of the whole country, and then Colorado is its own thing.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
You can hit Colorado in a different way. The people just love live music. And we've felt that in the couple shows we played there so far. We're really excited to get back.
Yeah, the crowds there are awesome and just ready for the jam thing. And they're like, it's like you said, it's their own separate genre of fan. It's not an East Coast fan. It's definitely not a West Coast fan. But you guys have played a lot of your, shows out here on the West Coast, and you are a West Coast jam band coming out of LA. And so, and I'm a West Coast dude these days. And so I'm stoked for us to be going east, like you said, and getting Headyville way up. And
we're going back to the old country for this one. We're digging in,
going up north to the, Wonderland Forest or whatever the hell. And I would go ahead.
We call New York City Jam Hollywood. So I wonder, in our sort of cosmology, what would the surrounding, like a forest around Syracuse be? Would that be like Jam Marin?
Maybe.
I mean, a little bit.
A jamboree?
A little bit of a jamboree. It's a Jamiroquai. I don't know. It's something.
Yeah. I like
it's a something. It's not Burbank. It's certainly not Jam Burbank.
It's not Burbank. It's not. It's kind of like it's a little Idlewild-esque. It's like just outside the city. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to think hard about that one.
Might even be like a Jam Pioneer Town, like a jam.
Yeah, it's sort of that vibe. It's that vibe. Totally. It's like Jam Joshua Tree.
Sure, Jam Joshua Tree. We cannot wait to head out to Jam Joshua Tree for Burning Daylight.
Not to be confused with the actual Joshua Tree, which I'm sure we'll play at some juncture. But this Joshua Tree exists in upstate New York.
If you've played Big Sur, then I think you kind of have to. That's the circuit.
Definitely.
That's the touring circuit. Hell yeah. Well, and I would love to talk with you guys about your shows that you've played all day, but that's not the show. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about talk about shows that you have seen and attended in your musical careers. And so, to get started, what are the first shows that you guys each saw in your lives ever?
Okay, the first show or the first show. You know what I mean?
Great.
But I'm going to take
that's a very important distinction.
Because I'm not for the purposes of this question. I'm going to say the first live rock concert I ever saw. But for the purposes of this show, as I was thinking about my best show ever, I was definitely heavy show vibe.
I feel you. There's we recently been talked about as your first show and then your gateway show. That show, right, that one. So
my first show at all, in the parlance of this is the first sort of popular rock concert I ever went to, was actually Phish fans are going to be up in arms about this. It was Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. I know, score one for Billy. I've definitely seen Phish many more times at the Garden than I've seen Billy. Still, so far, only the once. But that's what I was a huge Joel head as a kid. I actually little bit of trivia about me. My middle name is William, and I kid you not, named for Mr. Joel. My father's a big fan.
Wow.
So it was 360 MSG. We were behind the stage, which is a spot I've returned to many times. Not for Billy, but that was my first show, and I was with my dad, and I was kind of rock and roll is in my blood. This is where I belong. I was ecstatic. I was really psyched. But we were seated. There are a lot of jam show, themes that we can touch on here because it was a seated energy, at least behind the stage. And I remember feeling weird about that, but was kind of going with the flow. And then Piano Man, the Piano Man encore happened, and this guy stood up right in front of us. And my dad, who was enjoying the show, loving the show, kind of tapped him and was like, sit down, and I was and then I remember the guy being like, it's Piano Man, you got to get up. And I was like, that guy's right. It was embarrassing for me. I was like, it's Piano Man. We should be standing up.
Yeah,
but
you were wrong tonight.
That was my first show. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean listen, there are shows that you don't stand up at. Billy Joel is one of them, but that's such a funny thing I'm sure you maybe looked around at the crowd and be like, are we not? What does he got to do?
Yeah, this is the greatest moment of my musical life. I'm 12 years old. I listen to Billy Joel's greatest hits every day. I felt like standing.
Yeah. Man, Well, you should have stood up with that guy, and then maybe who knows?
I could have, and then my dad and I, though, what do you do?
It's hey, dads.
Yeah. It was a great night overall.
CT, what was your first show?
I mean, going way back, I think the actual answer is a Beach Boys show when I was very small, like 5 or something. I remember mainly being on my dad's shoulders. In some
Standing up, theoretically.
Yeah. I think it was like a classic lawn situation.
Yeah.
Even through, I don't really remember the tunes. I bet the boys were hot that day. If I had to
Mike
guess,
Love and John Stamos.
That was I feel like that was probably the literal true answer, and it also really sunk in because I had a poster that we got there that it was on my bedroom wall for a long time.
Oh yeah.
But I think sort of maybe an alternate answer that does sort of connect up with our mutual world here is that the first one I really chose to go to was the Allman Brothers.
Cool.
At I don't know what it's called now. It was called PNC Bank Art Center in Holmdel, New Jersey.
I think it's still called that. Yeah. I think it's still called that. Yeah.
And that was
this is Derek, Warren.
Derek Trucks had just kind of joined. It was 99, I think, something like that. And there was something about that show that I think was kind of the first real choice I made, and then also, I think was a correct choice. I remember one particular truck solo, and him not being, he was older than me, obviously, but not insanely so. If I was 14, he was 20 or 20,
right. Yeah.
Achievable, reachable, and he was just absolutely doing this amazing solo, and something hit my mind of whoa, you can just be a musician. You can just he's just a kid doing this. Why can't I? And not that I am by any stretch remotely close to Derek Trucks in any capacity, but there was something about that show that I think was being the first one I asked to go to, went with my dad, and then it turned out to be fucking amazing. I think that's maybe the more spiritual answer to that question.
That's that gateway show we were talking about.
It's kind of maybe a little bit of both.
Kick the door in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, and such an inspiring dude. He's also someone who I saw when I was young with my dad, my dad was big guitar music guy. So we were obviously going to go see Derek Trucks because he's just that prodigy dude. But you saw him as a benchmark of you could just get really, really, really good and play in the Allman Brothers, or crazy.
I mean, wait, did you see Almonds or DTB?
I saw DTB. I never saw that Allman Brothers. I was a little young in that time. Never.
I saw Derek Trucks band in a year or two after that at the Stone Pony, and that was very good as well.
Yeah, crazy. And still now that band, Tedeschi.
I mean, the brothers.
Yeah.
This is
right.
This is a moment to be having this conversation.
Oh yeah,
we're in it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing it again.
The brothers are back.
The brothers are back. Yeah. And I mean, and those shows just had to be fucking insane. I was not in attendance for either one of those, but they just, I mean, that's some true jam powerhouse stuff there. Did you have a gateway show, the show,
Yeah, there's a couple. I think the one honorable mention, so I got really into Phish months before the first hiatus.
Yeah.
So I'm really Phish is what I want in this time period, but I'm kind of standing there holding the bag, looking for other access points. Yeah. And I'm a huge Deadhead at this moment in time, but I will, I'm not afraid to admit my access point, we're all are in the same ish generation of jam. My access point to the Dead was through Phish because I got into Phish and I was like, okay, what's this whole world about? Same. But I went and saw, there was no Phish for me to see. I remember reading the recap of the Shoreline shows and being like, what? Why, man? And I went to see the other ones. Chris and I are both from New Jersey. And I don't even know, were you, a lot of these shows, these early shows, we were both at them. Were you at this show? This was the other ones at Continental Airlines Arena, which is definitely not called that anymore, but it's the arena in East Rutherford.
Center, just for the record.
It's where the New Jersey Nets once played.
Former one. No, but I saw the Phil and Friends The Q at Asbury Park. Probably a similar-ish era. I never saw the other ones though. But that is true. One thing that's been nice about Taper's Choices is occasionally a show will come up String Cheese Halloween 2001, and I was I was there.
He was there. So
there's a number of those that we didn't really know, but yeah.
That was definitely the first show in this universe that I saw, and I was like, not, and it was like, I think back to that, and it was only like 6 years after Jerry passed away, which is kind of crazy for me to wrap my head around. Like, we were so much closer to it at that time, but because of the way that age works, it's like that felt like a millennia ago, and then all of a sudden I was there, but it was like I was really gonna get it plugged in, and it was sort of like, it wasn't the Dead and Co era, it was like a half-filled arena show. Right. It was like sort of a weekly attended, like, deep tour kid. I was like, first exposed to this whole culture, I was probably in like 8th grade, and I was like, oh my god, what is going on here? And then after that, very shortly after that, the one I will say really, really did it for me was Trey. It was Tab at Roseland Ballroom. A similar era must have been 01 or 02, like during the first hiatus period. And I remember like pushing all the way up to the rail, seeing Trey for the first time. And at that show, Paige came out during the encore, and they did First Tube, which was like the most, and that was it. I was in. I was fully in.
Gotcha.
It was, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. That was the one.
You heard his tone live in the room, and
I heard his tone live in the room. It was right in front of me.
Yeah, dude.
I was, I was on the dance floor. I was like, whatever
Alex,
this is.
How early did you get there to get up front?
I was bad. I was a bad kid. I mean, like usually speaking, generally most of these shows, I was like there well before the like announced. I was like, okay, well the show starts at 7, so I got to be there at like 5:30. Well before the false stage time that was on all the tickets. But this one I was late for some reason, and I think I even maybe missed 1 or 2 of the first songs of the first set. And I totally just shoved up, like gnarly,
and we're just
gnarly high school kid. I was just like, excuse me,
and just took the stairs.
Yeah, just fully did it.
I can't live in that. I can't live in the moment that I pushed past someone. I can't feel the stares of people.
I think it's like acceptable up until a certain age.
Yeah.
And I must have been no more than 15. So it's like, I forgive myself. But yeah, it was pretty bad.
All the people around you were probably like, all right, kid wants to get close.
No, some woman was like, excuse me, we paid for this as well. Like, I did get scolded. Like,
and you're like, yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, I got to see Trey. I got to see Tony.
I'm the only one here that's got to see Trey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude.
Listen, I had to see him. It was my first time. I had to get there.
Yeah.
No regrets. No regrets.
I mean, there are those types of guys. There are those types of musicians that you just kind of are drawn to in that way. I mean, I've obviously been super drawn to Fish and Trey in my entire life. And yeah, like it was the same thing. Like when I was starting to go to concerts, they were on hiatus. And so, all my older brother and all his friends were just like...
Which hiatus? Hiatus or breakup?
Oh, breakup.
So you were in the 2.0, 3.0 gap there.
Yeah. And, that's when I'm like starting to, go to shows by myself and go to shows with my friends. And, my older brother and his friends are like, what are you guys going to see? And we're like, pop punk stuff. And they're like, that sucks. And I'm like, well, then what are we supposed to see in that time? None of my friends wanted to go to further shows even later on, than that. Like, no, they didn't want to go to that stuff with me. So I, that is that kind of like weird era for jam music where Fish wasn't there. And so you didn't get the big stuff, but you still got, like you said, Phil and Friends is like a huge show in that time. Were there any other like honorable mention shows in your life that maybe aren't like your best show ever, but you'd be remiss if you didn't bring them up on the podcast?
Well, yeah, because I thought about what and this all is going to flow very well into the shows that I chose to talk about, because they sort of happened in the in that No Fish era.
Yeah.
But like, I think that and for reasons that will reveal themselves, they weren't necessarily the best show or the worst show based on the music that was played alone, that I would say. But there are other extra show like aspects that make them the best and worst for me, But I think that Chris and I were both at 22803 Nassau Coliseum, and I would say that show, it's the definition of an honorable mention. Like, I was there. That's the most well-regarded, like, fan famous Fish show that I've ever actually attended. I'm pretty sure.
One of the highest rated on .net.
very highly rated, great rank. It's a highly ranked fish show that I was there for, and it was good. I can verify it was good.
You remember when they kicked into Destiny that night, bro? Oh my god!
I mean, how could I ever forget? How could I ever forget?
This is what the show's about, guys. You're in a jam. You're in a J-word safe space.
How could I ever forget? I mean, earnestly, you know.
Yeah, no, truly. Yeah. What other stuff was going on at that show? I mean, that's one of the most popular 2.0 shows, like you said. Was that something that you were waiting on? Were you going to a bunch of that tour, and then you just happened to run into
I was lucky because we were both in that area where that tour was happening. So I think it was 2 nights before I was back at Continental Airlines Arena for the BB King show.
Sick.
Controversial show, not a very well rated show, but hell, I'm glad I saw Fish with BB King.
I think that's cool.
I mean, that was sick. So I did those too. Yeah,
a fish sit-in doesn't get rated well, man. You know.
Yeah, never.
It's true. I was lucky enough to make the midweek in Worcester, as well, where they opened with Yam. Yeah, I mean, it's fun, and this is a really important time that every time this conversation kind of happens with Alex, is that it's really important to note that I did see 1.0 show. It's very important for me to.
You're the only person on this podcast who has been to a 1.0 show.
Please speak on it. We know that your head would explode if you didn't talk about it. So.
I mean, no, it's what. Although I had the very similar experience where I was just on the cusp of, I mean, quite frankly, for Central New Jersey, like getting your driver's license, like which is when the switch flips.
Yeah, right.
So I sort of just snuck in there. I don't really feel ownership to 1.0 or anything. It's just when specifically with Alex. It's very fun. I just sort of
like one of those kids who are like technically they're like around our age, but they're like, I did see Jerry because my parents brought me and I was 4, but I was in the room with Jerry and you were not, and that is the truth.
That is the truth.
That's kind of like the 1.0. Millennial 1.0ers are kind of like that. They're like, I was 9, but I was there. Yep.
It's not my era, but I did see a show. It's funny though. I've thought about this a lot. Is that, and I've with a lot of people in our general generation, there is something, and it's obviously I don't know anything that's not public or whatever, but like the reasons for the breakup and the hiatus were very real and sort of powerful reasons, and I think ultimately have allowed them to continue and to still be going strong. And that the fact that I think we're probably all going to shows this week and are fucking pumped. But there is an interesting thing too of like supply and demand, and I do feel like part of the reason I got so into them was I got a little taste and then they weren't available. Yeah. And maybe Alex, you were kind of saying that too, is like kind of this world appears to you, and it's so close, and I agree. Jerry was like this whole other thing, even though in reality it wasn't that far before that. Just kind of like, it's this interesting dynamic of when you're in a band, obviously you want to be present, you want to tour, you want to reach people, but there is this really weird way where Fish's 2 breaks, I think, made a lot of people get really into them because they had such an amazing legacy and so much, with the tapes and everything, like you could experience so much of it, but only secondhand, that leaving that whole firsthand experience, like I think was a rabbit hole that a lot of people, myself very much, like just totally fell down. I mean, I fucking stood, I think I got there like 2 a.m. I stood overnight to try to get into SNL Standby in 2002. Yeah. Like before the New Year's show. Did not get there, didn't get even close, but I did spend probably upwards of 10 hours online to get my number, and then came back that night, didn't work out, whatever. But I digress. I know we're not only talking about Fish, even though
this is why we're formally announcing here that Taper Choice is going on hiatus after the Troubadour show. Before the Burning Daylight Festival, we tend to take hiatuses between every gig, and so this is like our 12th hiatus.
Fuck, I just got
we're already on 12.0. This next show is our first of the 12.0 era.
I don't know what it is, but for some reason I just became a huge Taper's Choice fan. That's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. I know. That's how it happens. I mean, speaking of honorable mention, though, I mean, Chris kind of led me right to it. My first Fish show, my first proper Fish show was 12/31/02 into 03, the hiatus breaker. So I got in there, and that was like, who forgets their first show ever? My wife's coming to her first show Bill Graham in a couple of days. I don't know when this is going to air. Maybe it already happened. I hope it was a fantastic show. I'm sure it was amazing. But she might not remember hers, but down the line. But other than that, that show, because a lot of what I wanted to talk about on this podcast is like what makes a show great other than just like the tape, and that show was crazy for me. I'm throwing my dad under the bus here a lot, but like I got tickets to that show in the lottery, like fish tickets by mail. I literally won the lottery. I was ecstatic. I was losing my mind. I didn't know if Fish would ever come back. And then I got tickets to that show. And we moved, like, it was like during that week that like we moved houses literally. And I was like, Dad, my Fish tickets are going to come to the old house. And he's like, no. We got mail forwarding. Like they're going to come to the new house. And they just like weren't showing up, and we're getting like really close to the show. And I was like, Dad, the tickets aren't here. And he's like, oh, I didn't account for the fact that they were sent like FedEx or something like that. And so FedEx is not subject to the USPS mail forwarding system. And then we went back to the old house, and they weren't there, and they'd like shown that they'd been delivered, whatever. We tracked them, and like the tickets were gone.
Oh my
God.
And
it was
dude.
like devastatingly brutal. And my dad, good father that he is, I mean, he knew he had to, and I have no idea how much he had to pay to get me and my buddy Grant into that show tonight, but he was like, you'll be at the show, because he knew. I mean, and he did the right thing. I probably, like, can you imagine?
I mean,
if the story didn't have a happy ending.
Oh yeah, no, the worst. That's the worst. And I'm sure his heart sank not as early as yours did, like as the.
And then for any Fish, it's like 2 tickets actually just burned for that show though.
Yeah.
There's like 2 tickets that nobody used.
That's crazy.
Let's hope the FedEx guy knew what he had in hand. And,
it's usually like 4 people per ticket. Is what?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's like 8 people not at the show.
Yeah, that's true.
That's crazy.
That's true.
Yeah, man. Wow. I mean, this episode will come out on Tuesday during during your wife's.
When we're like on the lot,
yes,
like right there.
You can listen to and you'll be just talking about.
This is blasting out of the car.
You and I are right now in real time at Bill Graham night 1. I love that.
Yeah, we're having a blast right now, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and these shows are super important to us now. Like you said, because it wasn't available to us for a time, and I like same thing. Would just listen and pick luckily I got to grow up in the LimeWire era, and you could just download a full year of shows, no problem, ruin your parents' computer, really no issue. And then, have that whole year of shows, and like, I would just like dream about that experience. Like I just, through people's tapes and like listening to like crowd tapes and all that stuff, you like want to catch the, and like any little snippet of video or anything. I really dreamed for that. And that's what this whole podcast is about, is like trying to get people to talk about that time, and like, or, times that they've had at these great shows, and just so that it's not unforgettable. Like it's you got to put this stuff down, because it's important shit that we're talking. I know it's like joking about the Fish show, and like, oh man, you'll never forget that destiny that they went into on the the one show, but like you said, you won't forget it. It's a major moment. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's also a little bit of Taper's Choice thing, is that there's a lot of humor and jokes on top, but underneath it, there's a almost deathly seriousness and a deep respect and love. Like it's not, both of those
sure
things
you can relate to that from where you're coming.
1,000%, dude. 1,000%. Yeah, no, and I you feel that when you start looking into Taper's Choice stuff, like going to the Google Drive that is your guys' website and going through all the tapes and everything. It feels like the experience. It feels like what it feels like to become a jam band fan and like pour through the archive.
You're from the LimeWire era. We're from the original Nugs.net scrolling GeoCities style website, which was just, I don't know if this is a little bit before your time, but it was just like one, not even a fractal, like kind of Rorschach-y psychedelic background that didn't move, and then like a bunch of links. It was like widespread panic, like you just like scroll infinitely.
They're all different. Like some of them are all caps, some of them are like
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, dude. I'm from the Gin and Juice download.
Oh era. Yeah, that great Fish gin and juice.
Yeah, dude.
That was really good.
Man.
Yeah.
Super sick. Any other shows, like maybe not your best show ever, maybe not the one, but any others that you would be remiss not to bring up on the show?
I kind of when I was thinking about this beforehand, I was thinking a lot about what came to my mind is, and maybe this is more to, well, obviously I'm on the program, so it's okay if it has to only do with me and maybe not the quality of the show. But I remember a lot of shows from the summer of 2008, which was Vampire Weekend's kind of not our first European tour, but the first time that we did the whole European festival thing. And I'd gone to the first Bonnaroo, and I'd gone to it and Coventry. So like I had some vague experience of what a festival was, but playing festivals in Europe, no less, like it was just a very different experience. And yeah, I just remember a lot of sets from those days of like walking around, seeing like Radiohead in a town, like a city square in a French city that it wasn't Paris. I can't remember what it was. I literally cannot remember the town name. But like seeing them and kind of like, we had played at noon and they were playing at 8 p.m. But still, the fact that we were sort of connected and like that I was there at all was like, I think that really heightened the experience for me. I remember like, you're just seeing like a lot, like seeing like the Strokes in Scotland in 2009. And speaking of, like I definitely like didn't see them in their burgeoning era or something, but
I saw one point in Strokes. Definitely.
There you go. So we're even.
Yeah.
We're even.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there's, and this not as much Jam World stuff. Another one that comes to mind was they've since reformed and done a couple tours. Tapers open for them, but there's this band called the Walkmen that I really love. That Vampire Weekend had opened for, and they were just like amazed. They were just an amazing band, and I was lucky enough to be at what was at the time their last show ever, which was like there was just like their music is very bittersweet, and there's a lot of like I find it to be kind of like an emotional music, and I think the fact that it was their self-consciously last show, I remember that one being like really kind of intense in like a small club in New Orleans, and just like playing this like last song, the singer walking through the crowd and out the door. That's another one that comes to mind of like, I guess I think of emotions and crowd reaction and sort of the conversation between what's on stage and what's in the audience is as much as musical moments. I think that's kind of what sticks out to me.
Oh, I mean, that's what we were just talking about. Like, that's what I was listening to on these tapes. Like, the crowd reaction at a Phish show is a huge part of the listening experience. And yeah, that's also, just in interviewing people who are, have an artist path of any kind, there is the kind of delineation of like, these are the shows that I saw when I was still, coming up as a young music fan and a young musician. And then like, there are shows that, happened during my career that kind of like either signified a time or signified a run that we were on, or, or just crazy that you're on the same lineup as Radiohead. You're like, oh shit. Like,
yeah.
And it ends up being like 2 episodes for people. They end up like, here's my, not my working, best shows ever and stuff. There's definitely that break. Was there that for you too, Alex, playing with Real Estate?
I mean, there are so many moments in the trajectory of the career where it's like, I can't believe I'm even on the same sheet as like X,
Yeah, right.
We'll get all the indie rock shit out of the way here, but it's true. And I mean, I just, that thing that you, that you said about like, there was like the sort of delineation point of like before and after I became an artist that could relate to maybe some of the stuff that was going on, like because I remember going to shows and then like seeing them emerge from this green room backstage and be like, what is going on back there? And now that I know, it's like, oh, it's so less, I'm sorry to blow it for you all, but like, it's not that cool, it's actually, there was like a Trey quote that I saw recently. It was for Rolling Stone or something like that. And it's, like we joke about how all the like jammers think, except for us, think that they want to be Radiohead, and like even Trey
Totally.
is like, I was talking to one of the guys from Radiohead and he was like, what's really cool about your shows is that the people all the way to the back of the room are like super jazzed to be there, which I think is really true. And what's really exceptional about going to like any sort of like jam band show where the crowd is like committed, not just Fish, where it's like everybody's there to experience the music together and be there to some degree. And like, I remember in my early days that you mentioned of like going to see music, especially as a young fan, is like, I couldn't consider being at the back of the room. Like I was at the front ish and I was like locked into like every single thing that was going on. And then like, unfortunately, as I got older, became an artist that could sort of like, oh, this is what's happening here. Or it was like a social scene for me or something. Like I'm at the show, but I'm in the back, like chatting or whatever, I'm sorry to admit, and like, I remember going, like having to use a bathroom or get a water or something and like going to a bar as like an underage showgoer and basically like stumbling into this future world of my own where there's a bunch of people like hanging out and talking. And I was like, what is happening here? I just couldn't fathom that, Yeah, totally. So that it just sort of conjured that for me, that line of demarcation there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, that is something that.
And one thing you got to know about Alex is he's a world-class chatter.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a chomper though. I try not, but I do got to work on that. Like I don't want to. My wife's coming to the show. I'm gonna have the urge to like
get all the
Fish here and be like, this is Carini. It's a little bit scary, but lately they've been going pretty major with it. So like, don't worry. Like
it becomes a blissful thing every time. But she's telling you to shut up. Yeah. No, that's absolutely what happened the first time I took my girlfriend to Fish. I was just like, and she like understands music in an incredible way. I don't have to explain shit to her, but then we're at the goofiest show she's ever been to in her life. I'm like, all right, so here's what's about to happen.
Yeah, and they're playing Tongue or something, and you're like, this is actually a really big deal.
I would actually
this is a really big deal.
People have waited like a long.
Yeah.
This isn't about you anymore. Okay. Yeah. No, man. I mean, that's bring your friend to the show. And I also am a world-class chatter. It takes everything in my being not to, especially if I like, there was a time like in LA, like when I'm bringing friends to, like when I was living in LA, there was none of my jam friends were there, which is really like my brother and like my.
Well, that's why we started Tabor's Choice, frankly, Kim. Because we felt the same way.
You're like, none of my jam friends are out here. And every show that I went to that was any sort of even close to jam band related, it's like me and 4 of my comedy buddies who I'm like, okay, so now they're going to do like, it's like I'm explaining the whole thing to them. But yeah, it's deeply personal. Okay. There's a lot of context that goes into me liking the Carini that goes major. Okay. And I've got to tell you,
absolutely.
I got to tell you right absolutely. Do you guys have a best show? And you've seen so many shows, been to so many shows. A best one ever, if you will.
Okay, so here's mine. Unconventional. Please fact check me on the date in the comments of the podcast. Okay. I'm gonna get the day right. The year might be wrong, but I think I'm right. July 20th. 2002, String Cheese Incident, Radio City Music Hall.
Hell yeah.
And it was a great show. And I actually I never listened back to it until today when I knew that I was choosing this show as my number one show. And I like threw it on and I was like, it's pretty good. It sounds a lot like Fish, but it's, like it's good. And, but I must say that me picking this show doesn't have that much to do with the music, which is just something I wanted to like address on the show, which we have been this whole time. There's a little bit of a backstory, but I was, and this falls in the hiatus era. It was like, I got right into Fish right when they stopped being around. And then I was like, okay, well, what else can do that? And a lot of people were going to String Cheese in that between 1.0 and 2.0 era. And I had a lot of formative like String Cheese shows before I ever got to see Fish. And they were great. They were fantastic shows. CT was at some of them, I'm sure. But and the crowd was great.
We're very pro String Cheese.
We're pro everyone, but we're super pro String Cheese.
Hell yeah.
100%. I'm choosing them as my best show, but I'm gonna choose them as my worst show too. Spoiler alert. But we're pro cheese. Anyway, I had been grounded. It was a summer. I was in high school and I was grounded for the whole summer for driving my friend's car and crashing it, which was a ludicrous thing to do. I used to make fun of kids who did that before I did it, and then I did it. So I just they were like, you're grounded for the whole summer, whatever. And I knew that I had these String Cheese tickets when I got grounded, and I was like, I'm gonna figure out a way to get to this show. I'm either going to like ask for it to be my one night off, or maybe as a birthday gift, they'll let me go or whatever. And it just so happened that my entire family was out of town that weekend. I think it was a Saturday night that I went to the show. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, even though I'm technically grounded.
Yes.
I just like the window open, and I hadn't been I got grounded for a month, which like in the summer at that age was like, it was catastrophic. And I hadn't seen my friends. I hadn't like done anything, you know? And I was like, I'm at the String Cheese show, like tasting freedom for the first time. And it was so good. The show was so good. Radio City is such a cool venue, and had an amazing time. Got back to my suburban home in New Jersey. This is pre-cell phone, so they couldn't track me or figure out where I was. So I had this whole plan that I executed. I would like called my dad pretending to be groggy, and I was like, Dad, sorry, I fell asleep. You didn't call, did you? And he's like, nope, didn't call. Everything's fine. I was like, okay, great. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, I got away with it. So like the feeling of like getting to be at that show, like I had all this anxiety, like I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the show, but I really want to go. And then I was there, and I did it, and I got away with it. And now my dad knows. But
You're so fucked, dude.
Shout out, Dad. Talked about you like 6 times on this podcast.
He's a huge listener of the show too.
Yeah.
He's all over.
He's gonna call me after this airs and be like, I can't believe it.
And is this a worldwide exclusive?
Oh yeah.
Is this a fact that's not known in your family?
I don't know if they know. I mean, it's
Wow.
So this could be. I could be breaking it. Yeah.
I can see this being a breakout video. This is an important news.
Totally.
Yeah. This will be the clip for sure.
Yeah. Mom and Dad, sorry I went to that String Cheese Incident show, July 20th, 2002, Radio City Music Hall.
Incredible.
It was worth it. They opened with Around the Wheel. It was sick. It's still good. I put it on today. Go back and listen. Good stuff.
Man, and that, I mean, the tension and release of that's a movie that you just described. Okay, that's like
Totally.
that's your whole, and I'm sure that was everything that you were thinking about, and like to pull that off, you know, even with the with the fake call. I mean, you had to just feel like you were Ferris Bueller, you know, like you're just you fucking did it, man.
Yeah,
incredible. I mean, CT, best show ever.
You know, I do have a best show, which is not String Cheese, but I don't know if I've talked about this. I have a very similar. My family was out of town, and I stuck into the city to see String Cheese show. Story. You know, I didn't drive my friend's car and crash it, so it had nothing.
Yeah, he was a better kid than me. Yeah.
But it was whatever. It was October 2001, so my parents were a little skittish about me going into the city. But I forget what it was. There was something where my sister and my parents left town for Halloween or something, and I was a senior in high school, and I was like, "You're expecting me not to go to String Cheese at it's literally above the train station. I don't even have to enter the city." Right. And then I feel like I had some sort of cockamamie thing too, of like maybe some sort of like fake call, or I like tried to get like $1.50 worth of gas to make the gas lineups, or something weird, something sneaky and like cover-uppy. But that's very funny. That was that's a very similar experience we also shared.
That was Hollywood 10/31/02.
10/31/01.
Which was a school night, I think, or maybe not. Maybe it was a Friday.
I don't know.
So, I don't know how you got away with going there and nobody knew. But I was also at that show. Memorable show for me as well.
You know, and it's funny. I guess when I didn't put this together, your line about the demarcation of fan to, I'll use professional in quotes, but like experiencing it from the other side, whatever that means.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of the shows that came to mind were from high school and college, and like a couple year stretch of like when it's really hitting you, and before I had too many opinions formed, before I really maybe had as much experience, which isn't to say that the shows were better or worse than they would have if I saw them now, but something about being open and like it's all very fresh to you. And so my best show of all time, what I thought of was, I don't know the date, but it was somewhere in the spring of 2002. So again, you know, this is a very
era.
Yeah, a very heady time.
That's 2.0 technically, but you know,
it was before. It was like some probably May or April or something. But my friend from high school was auditioning to go to Juilliard for acting, And so it was this whole thing. And so we had this like weekend where we like me and another friend and this guy like rented a shitty hotel room. We were staying in New York and we were 18, and it was just like, you know, it's like a kind of like this new experience. And I knew I was going to college there, so it's kind of like, oh, this is what I'm going to do like every night. And we went to this show, this is dating myself, but like looking in the paper Village Voice for shows, not really knowing any of the bands, not really having a device to like look up what these bands meant. It was just like names and some graphics and like locations of any. And so we ended up going to this show. I think they're still around, but they're part of the Daptone universe. This band called Antibalas, which they were like an Afrobeat band, and it was the small place called the Makor, Makor, kind of like Lincoln Centery. And it was something, about being in New York. We were 18 as mentioned, but the Makor has since closed, so I feel comfortable saying this. They were serving us beer, which was, a true delight. Although the bill was shocking. It was shocking.
Well, you got to pay for that. That's a risk,
It's like, we'll give you beer, but you got to pay for it. But and also this is like, I think something of that era, like pre-Spotify. I didn't know who Fela Kuti was.
Yeah.
Which I feel like if I was in high school now, I probably would have known what that style of music was for years and kind of like had an awareness of it. I was just went in cold. The name was cool, and it was just the fucking best grooves. This like not a big band like a jazz big band, but 8 or 10 people on stage, like a guy just doing a cowbell for the clave rhythm, like a great trap drummer. They were switching, horn section, tight guitar, like some soloing, but it wasn't jamming, but it was kind of like, Fish adjacent enough.
Antibalas was jam adjacent, like if not just straight up. It was in the Jamiverse. They played well ends.
If I remember correctly, there's a documentary about the first Bonnaroo, directed by Danny Clinch, and I believe like the opening is driving in a van with Antibalas from New York to Tennessee, whatever. There was something about never having heard this type of music, being in New York, like tasting what I thought was adulthood, but adulthood is now when I'm 40 and have 2 kids and stuff. That's being 18 in New York is not being an adult. Right. I can say that for sure. It was with these friends that I still love and still feel close with, and just this kind of like amazing overall experience. I think the music was great. I'm sure I doubt a tape exists. But yeah, it's about the people that you're sharing it with. Something about this. I'm not really a dancer, even in a jam way, but I fucking danced the whole night. You just couldn't help but be in this music that was new to me. So Antibalas somewhere April, May 2002, I think was what came up for me as this, just like an experience that I feel like it did change me. I don't know, in a way that I don't think is corny to say.
Yeah, definitely. If you already had that sensibility too of like the jazz influences and like Fish influences, like a show like that, it's such a full sound. It's such a like blow your head off type of music. You're just like, what the hell have I been have people just been playing music like this and I've missed it?
Right. I think in that era, it's like, like there's classic rock radio, like the way to find stuff, like, Original Nugs was probably up, but it was very rudimentary. And even like, I talked to one, I don't know. I talked to one of them after, I was like, dude, what was that? Like something very, three Heinekens in, just like, dude, it was amazing. What the fuck? Yeah. And he's like, oh, thanks. But, like, nice. But, it's kind of like, this is kind of a style of music by this guy, Fela Kuti. And I was like, who's that? Or something. And then I had to like go to, it wasn't even, I couldn't even like search to find it. I had to like go to my local record store, which was Princeton Record Exchange back in New Jersey, which I now know as of last week, the Trey worked there at one point.
Oh, crazy.
Like find the CD and not knowing anything about it. Something that was like the act of discovery, both live and then what it led me down afterwards was a big part of that experience.
Yeah, you had to go literally seek it out. And like you said, right now you could just be like, who's Fela Kuti? into your phone if you'd like. Yeah, man, that had to just be a crazy, like you said, and that is something that will absolutely change you when you, of course, when you wait for something that you know you're going to like, a big show, you hold on to tickets for a long time. Like that's a cool thing. But if you stumble into something, that's a whole different element of like, you just couldn't prepare yourself for that. There's no way you could have known, like you said, going in cold to something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens. We did kind of glaze over this earlier, but that happens in the opposite way too, where sometimes you're really excited for something and it's just like a really bad show. You guys have shared some amazing shows here, and I've talked about some amazing musical events. Have you seen anything? And again, you don't have to put an artist down at this point, but have you seen? Do you have a worse show? Do you have a show that was maybe not so inspiring?
Yes. But I want to. I don't even know what CT means by his moment of recognition. But I'm sorry that I'm jumping out of order here, but I was just thinking about something, and I want to just shout out one more honorable mention because of what you guys were talking about, and like this, like, oh, I'm going back to this time, this sort of like I mean, we all can relate to this like age of innocence where everything feels so new to you, but I want to shout out whatever era of Phish we're in now, 4, 5, 6, 0.0. Never been a 0.5 era, by the way. But whatever era we're in now, I saw there was the last a couple West Coast runs ago. This might be
San Diego. Don't talk about the San Diego one.
This Chula Vista show might be the best show I've ever seen.
I couldn't make it, man.
I honestly like. That's why I wanted to mention 22803 because whatever, how it's famous and blah blah blah, and we were there. And I just want to shout out the brilliant work that the band we all love is doing to this day.
Right now.
And that's what's so fun about it. It's like we might be at the best show we've ever seen right now as you're listening to this podcast, the moment that it airs.
Probably.
Like every one I walk into has that potential.
Yeah.
And this was the North Island Credit Union Theater, the NICU show. And I remember as it was I don't know who was there, probably some of you listening to this, or you've all at least heard it because you're huge Phish nerds. But they worked NICU into like 6 or 7 different tunes and I just remember being like, this is the real thing.
Yeah.
This is like a show that some lore style show from 98 or whatever was like, oh man, they put NICU everywhere. It could happen. And I was just like, it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. And so I just want to pull one from the like fairly modern era, the boys have still got it.
It's a good one to pull. And that
it was a good show.
That is the weekend I moved to LA from Chicago. I drove from Chicago to LA to get to the the Forum show. And I didn't go.
Oh, you missed. I was like, you missed it too. So there you go.
Could have added that into the road trip, no problem. Yeah. Parked all my crap right on lot. My whole life, I could have done that, but I didn't. But yeah, if you're gonna pull one from this era, that's a great one.
That was a great show. I felt lucky to be there.
I've gotten a lot of texts in the last few years from Alex like, dude, they're playing Fluffhead. You should have been here, man. That's happened multiple times.
I feel confident that you're going to get it on this next run. I feel like you're going to hit it. Yeah.
It's finally your time.
Okay. Worst show also has nothing to do with the music. Also, String Cheese Incident. Yeah. So I just wanted to put that. I'm sure they played great. This was Thanksgiving time. Like I was in college and it was my first Thanksgiving back. So it was 2004. And it was, this is like pretty much like CT's local. This was at Camden, at the Shed in Camden. What's it called now? It was Tweeter at the time.
East Center or Tweeter Center. I don't know what it's called
now. Yeah. So I went there, but it was late November and basically across the river from Philadelphia in Jersey. And so it was this, I don't know if you've ever experienced this phenomenon where it's a shed show, but they closed the back wall. So it was no lawn and it was enclosed. It was like a room. It was like a weird dark room. So it was like just the pav. And it was very dystopian and strange and weird feeling in there. And like, I don't know if you know anything about Camden, New Jersey, but like it is not a place. I mean, I hope they're doing some interesting stuff. They're trying to revitalize, but especially at that time, like it was a scary place to be. And they were like basically like shepherding all these String Cheese fans into this like chain link fence parking lot. And it was like, do not leave here. Go directly into this like non-open air, because when you go to like the Tweeter Center and it was a summer, okay, that's one thing. You're on the river and it's nice out, and but this is just like a very strange, weirdly shaped building that I was in, and but this was like, we're back from college, we're going back to string cheese, like that's our thing, Fish once again does not exist. Like my high school experience spanned Fish existing, and then like I graduated in 04, so like Coventry had been a couple weeks before we went to Coventry. We didn't get it, we don't even have to talk about Coventry. I'm sure other people have. But so it was a dark time. And and we were at the show and we ate some mushrooms because we're in college now. We brought some mushrooms to the show, and we're kind of high on mushrooms, and we're in this weird place in the weird part of the world, and like the PA cut out for probably not that long. But, like during a tune with vocals, like the PA just dropped out, and like all of a sudden, and you couldn't hear, and it was like the sound of the amps, which is actually like kind of interesting, but it was like that type of thing, which is like so rattling for like the sensitive mushroom experience. Like 20 minutes of sound was out, and it was just like, what is happening? And it was like, that was it. I did not recover. And then after the show, then you like spill out into the streets of Camden. Like it was a rough one. And it was probably, it might have been the beginning of my own jam hiatus, where like I don't know if I was back, like really, I don't know if I was back sharing in the groove again until after 09.
Not inspiring.
It was a tough one. It was a tough one. The scene was in a tough place in Fall 04, post Coventry, I will say.
It wasn't like the hottest time to be a jam freak, a jam head.
But if you were there, bless you. We were all there together.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Any worse shows for you, CT, or you're also at that string cheese show?
Again, to point out, as I did not take mushrooms, but I saw Oysterhead in that same configuration. It was because like they I guess I haven't really heard of it other places, although it must happen. But it's a very weird. I will say it's a very weird vibe, where like you're used to sheds and these amphitheaters having a specific summery feel, and then just these like massive slider doors. It's still like the air is pretty stale.
Yeah,
and it's like it is a weird vibe. I could picture what you're describing.
I've never heard of any other amphitheater doing this. Like,
I think maybe they heard about these two shows and they're like, we can't do this.
Oyster had a string cheese. Yeah, we're good.
That was everyone freaked out. Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
What's funny is I was trying to think about worst show, and as I mentioned, I've got 2 young kids, and I think there is something biological of like you forget the bad shit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've definitely been to a lot of bad shows, but I just don't remember them as much as I remember the good times. And even the one that came to mind, I watched again. It's on YouTube, and I watched again, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
but it was like whatever. It was like Amy Winehouse at a festival in 2008 that Vampire Weekend played, and like I just remember her kind of feeling like checked out during the set, and it was kind of I just kind of felt like she wasn't giving in a way that like the big crowd and the platform, like I think even if you don't like the music, if whoever is performing like gives their all, in my philosophical opinion, there are no bad shows.
Yeah.
Like music is subjective. That's as it should be. But only when people are cynical or phoning it in, or like, I think if people are trying, then like God bless them. I love music.
Yeah.
full stop. And I think, which is another Taper Choice motto, is we love music.
Yeah. I can't believe you just trashed Goose so hard, CT.
Crazy that you would drag Goose right now. Unbelievable. No, I mean, like, that's something that can be felt. Even if you're someone who's not a musician. I'm not a musician at all. And I think you can tell when someone's like having fun, generally. You can tell if someone's like putting their all into something. That's usually pretty clear. And it's usually pretty clear on the opposite end too. So, but yeah, to go back and watch that performance and you're like, actually, fucking kind of killed.
Yeah, no, it was like, and maybe it was my vantage point, like the sound wasn't great or something, but it was like, like it's a little lackadaisical, but like it was fine. It was fine. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
I mean, and that's why like my worst show and best show, honestly, was like more just about my subjective experience rather than like whatever happened on stage. Like, and I think that's kind of what's fun about these types of shows that we've mostly talked about here is like, it's like we all make it together.
There are so many factors that go into it. There's like the people that you were next to, and there's the venue, and there's the where you were in your life at the moment, and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's almost in almost every episode, it's rarely about what was going on on the stage. Maybe like you said, maybe in some of those early shows when you're just truly for the first time getting blown away by, you know, some amazing musician like Derek Trucks or someone along those lines. Billy Joel being moved to stand.
Billy motherfucking Joel, dude.
Love my conversation with Alex and CT from Taper's Choice. Man, we are just so stoked to finally get together, obviously at these Fish shows that we are going to meet at the first time at, and then up at Burning Daylight for this festival for Dogs in the Pile. We just couldn't be more excited about that. Happy that the dogs put us together for this interview. They totally made this happen, and so thank you, Dogs in the Pile, for hooking me up with the Taper's Choice guys. I hope you guys are enjoying all the episodes out right now. We've got a bunch out from season 1, 2, and 3, and 4, the one you're listening to right now. If you're enjoying the podcast, guys, I would appreciate a subscribe, a like, a review, all that kind of stuff helps the algorithm of it all. If you've been enjoying this conversation, you can go ahead and throw it in the comments here on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening. But until next time, guys, have a great show.